And I'm sorry, but what do we think about the original people who thought about it all in the first place? It wasn't just implemented on a random Sunday when life was good for a laugh.
Bad coin.
Bad
Smack her
coin.
down.
Bad.
Smite her.
Boop. Let's reset Panem to
Reset.
factory settings.
2 raging book nerds, 14 years of friendship, and 1 burning question.
If Katniss Everdeen posted on Reddit, would she be the arsehole?
Welcome to Once Upon a Red Flag. This season, we're stepping into Panem, where every tribute, tyrant, and mentor gets their day in the Am I the Asshole courtroom.
I'm Katie,
And I'm Rachel.
and join us while we read between the red flags and break down the Hunger Games, one questionable decision at a time. Welcome back, everybody. This is episode 15. I say that as a
Episode
fact, I haven't read it.
15.
Yeah, of Once Upon a Red Flag. We are so happy to have you guys back. We are delving into the victors and some very questionable decisions. But I think,
Yeah.
Rachel, you have an icebreaker for me.
Yeah, so I have a serious life question this time as well,
Okay.
rather than like a. Well, it's not. It's a bookish life question. Let's be honest, but
Okay.
it's not like a fun little game. Like I'm actually gonna take your advice and your opinion because
Okay.
I haven't been able to read books in the same way since I went to be fully self-employed. Like I think it's because like when you're fully reliant on your own actions to build your income, you kind of struggle to switch off sometimes and like fully like sink into a book. There's always like
Uh-huh.
some sort of guilt around not like doing more work
Mm.
and getting yourself in a better financial position. Like if you want to build savings and you spend like 60 hours working per week rather than a standard 40-hour job because you're at home, you might as well. But something that happened recently when I was reading, and I want to know your take on this because this was weird for me. This was really strange for me. I've never had this happen. So answer first, and then I'll give you the context of where I'm coming from.
Okay.
How sensitive are you to spoilers? Do they like ruin your experience or do they like enhance it in some way? And do you get more enjoyment out of a reread of a book than reading a book for the first time? Those two are related. Like, do you enjoy knowing what's coming? Or
No.
do you prefer to be surprised?
I don't like spoilers. If I have a spoiler, it kind of ruins the experience, which is why
Entire experience.
which is why I'm kind of grateful that the other day you basically pre-warned me that another podcast series, essentially their like preview thing on YouTube, had like a major spoiler for one of the books, and I've only read one. I
Yeah.
haven't read the whole series. So it's like, oh, okay, I need to stay away from all the previews of that because
Yeah.
I like, especially when I was reading Ink Storm as well, and you kind of knew how it ended. And I was like, please don't tell me. Like please don't accidentally like tell me because it would like ruin my reading experience. I don't like spoilers. They do ruin my experience. I try and stay away from them as much as possible.
So that was kind of me, kind of not me before. Kind of me because like I liked the experience of going, wait, what? I liked knowing things or like assuming things were going to end well, but also like kind of being able to like try and guess what's coming or like try and pick up on all the little like foreshadowing device because I'm the kind of like person who has really good pattern recognition. Like I don't know how much of that is like simply from reading or something just being like a bit neurodivergent or whether some of this is down to like my English A level and my drama degree because like you spend a lot of time writing essays analyzing word choice and visual scenes and you do kind of like train yourself to like pick up on like subtle cues that tell you what's going on and like what is being hinted at before it happens. And I'm asking you specifically because you have the masters in film and the assumption of is part of that. Like you will have some of that training, reading scenes, directly crafting those elements within scenes. But the thing that is making me question this right now is I'm struggling to sink into a book, which means that I can't always pick up on those cues or I'm struggling to get through like big swaths of text, like war scenes and still be engaged. It's taken me about like I've got to read a book for an hour or two before I go, okay, now I'm invested again. Like it's taken me a while to get like relaxed into it. I was reading Fearless Lauren
Yeah.
Roberts is fearless.
Mm-hmm.
And I was having an all right time.
Okay.
It wasn't groundbreaking for me, but it was okay. I wasn't like wanting to like binge read it for hours on end, but then we got like 20% of the way in and a perspective popped up. And I kind of saw exactly where that point was going to go. And all of a sudden, I was more on board with the book.
Okay.
In that one moment, it went from being 3 stars to 4 stars. Now, until that point, like, we were in a setup where I couldn't see how on earth they were going to get out of this. Or, like, I guess a more accurate way of saying it would be a way in which they were going to get out of the situation without it being a massive cop-out. Like a complete reversal or a deus ex machina, or I don't typically like them. For anyone who doesn't know like pretentious Latin critical terms, that's basically when something comes out like completely left field, something like entirely implausible that doesn't make much sense in the narrative. I think it means like God from the machine. So like divine intervention, basically changing a plot with no action from the characters. And that's all I could see happening to that point. And that's what I was expecting. And so this plot point opens up and I'm like, okay, I see the vision. Like, and it was a saving grace for this book for me. And it tied the other books together. And I'm not saying what it is, because I know you haven't read Finish yet. You haven't finished it.
No, I haven't finished it. I've started it. But now I'm listening to you.
Do you think you know what it is?
I'm thinking of 2 different ways that it will go where it would still be really interesting, but it wouldn't be a cop-out and it wouldn't be like a traditional way of fixing, quote-unquote fixing, depending on what you think about the 2 men. The kind of problem, as you could use that word, at the start of the book. Like, yeah, okay, keep going. I'm having a grand old time in my head. Keep going.
Good. But like, it explains some like earlier, like what I was calling like plot holes from the other books as well, or like ways we kind of went, wait, what? And then it just got brushed over, that kind of thing. And I was then invested because I was like, okay, I think I can see where this is going. Now I want to know if I'm right and like how we're going to get there. Well, but then similarly...
Before you move, I have something to say. I was like, oh, I hate spoilers on that. But when I was reading Reckless, which is obviously the second book in the Powerless series, I kind of had the same thing where I was reading it and I was like, oh, I think I know how this is going to end. Obviously, they're setting it up to be this way, which is obviously horrible. But I think what's going to happen is this way. And then what I actually thought was going to happen did happen. So then I had a kind of a feeling of like justification and that, oh, you know, I figured out what was going to happen and all that. So I kind of do get your perspective.
Yeah, like I enjoy that kind of thing, but then like similarly, I'm struggling with Children of Fallen Gods right now because it's the big war bits and stuff like that. And I mentioned in the last episode that I've been reading like Daughter of No Worlds, and I was getting a bit bogged down in like all the wars that were going on for a couple of chapters, struggling to push through. But then like when I had nothing else to do, finally I could like relax into it and I got through 20% in one evening. And then like at that point I'm like hooked, could sit here for 12 hours straight and read the entire thing. But then I come out of it again and I'm in work mode again and I'm going back in. But I've not got any spoilers for this book yet. I have no idea where it's going. At all, no clue. And I seem to have more enjoyment if I find the right spoiler. Like Salem's Lot was the same thing as well. Stephen King's Salem's Lot. I saw the end point coming a mile off. I think you're meant to. It's horror. Do you know what I mean? Like I think you're meant to be like, oh crap, it's going to go to the worst place possible. But it was a good thing. It was a good thing that I saw it coming because it was like a car crash and you couldn't look away.
I was literally just thinking that was like a car crash. And you're like, you can't. For some reason, you know you shouldn't keep looking at it.
You know what's going to happen.
But you do.
Yeah, but you've got to keep going anyway and hope that you're wrong. And that's how I was reading that book. And that's when I had the best experiences. But then I read a cheeky little romance and I know they're going to end up together. And I can enjoy that more sometimes than the big high fantasy worlds that I usually know and love. So like, what's right for me? Do you know what I mean? Like, if I'm going to look a spoiler up, and I have accidentally found spoilers before that has ruined the reading experience, or like I know that a twist that I would have really enjoyed that twist, I didn't get to experience that twist, I feel like I'm missing a trick. I'm missing something. Am I just can't relax, broken for now, and then once that's fixed, it will be fine again? What is going on?
Yeah,
What am I missing, Casey?
I do get that, because obviously I'm not self-employed, but I do work from home every day, and it's those hours are long, like it's stressful, and then we do podcast stuff outside of my normal work hours.
Yeah.
So I do feel like I'm working all the time, and last 2 weeks I've had a little bit of time off. I've gone and seen family and things, and I've spent a lot of time reading, especially traveling. I think when I travel I read the most, because I'm stuck on a plane or a coach or a bus,
have nothing else to do.
Yeah. And of those journeys I started reading Dagger and Flame.
You're loving that.
I'm loving it. It is a 5-star. It's a 5-star read.
Catherine Doyle.
So that's it.
Me.
Yeah,
haven't read it yet.
It's really good. I picked it up just because I really like the premise on the back, and now I bought it like a year ago, and now I'm actually reading it, and I'm like,
a while.
I'm hooked. It's just under 500 pages. I'm about page I think 330, and for me, I usually read quite slow. But the fact that I did that on 2 coach journeys, I'm quite impressed by it. It means I obviously really enjoy the book, and I really want to see where it's going to go, and I really want you to read it, because I really want to talk about it with someone.
Yeah, I will. I will. Yeah, it's on my list. It's literally there right behind me, because I'm also having a thing right now where usually I like reading on my Kobo. I think I've mentioned it before. Rheumatoid arthritis, joints sometimes don't always want to hold a book open. Sometimes it's the position of having to hold I'm not comfortable with. So I like my Kobo. But then I also feel like I'm on my Kobo. It's the same font. It's the same text size. It's the same thing in my hands all the time. And then also less immersed in the world than I was reading Powerless Physical as well, by the way. The Powerless series, I actually have the physical books and the ebooks. So I was swapping between the two depending on how I was feeling. And I felt sometimes I wanted to pick the physical book up to have the experience of reading a book with the font and all the design decisions that went into that. So I don't know whether that's a part of it as well. Whether because I have Daughter of No Worlds, the whole series on ebook, whether I just need to come away from my Kobo for a bit and just read something. That's why I picked up a manga last night. I haven't read manga for a while, and I'm kind of missing it. But I was I'm in the middle of this big heavy world, and I can't just sink into it for 10 minutes at a time. It needs to be a whole session. Finish this book I've got 73% of the way through it, according to my Kobo. So I'm nearly I could probably do it in one full day off. If I can ever give myself a day off. But it'd be interesting to know if anyone else has this experience that I'm having. If there's any tips that help. Is it just go to therapy, Rachel, and learn how to de-stress, and that the entirety of your life is not on your shoulders, and you have a partner who you can punt stuff onto?
It's called being an adult, I guess. And I think it's for me, obviously I live on my own, and I work from home, and then when I'm off work, all I can think of is all this stuff that I need to get done around the flat, upkeep, cleaning. I need to paint, and there's just so much to do. So those things always keep becoming the priority. Every time I'm I want to sit down and get a book from my little mini library and read. It's never at the top. But I think a lot of people are gonna relate to that. A lot of people that have jobs are gonna relate to that. There's just, unless you're a professional full-time reader and you get paid to do that, it's difficult. Or you don't want to sleep.
I am debating doing YouTube videos of my own where I talk about books. There's a limit to how many books we can talk about on this podcast because of the format that we have given ourselves. So having another way to talk about other books, I want to read Pet Sematary. I have started reading Pet Sematary, which is supposed to be the book Stephen King has written, and he thinks it's the scariest book he's ever written because it goes into the worst places. And And I want to like, I don't get scared at horror books. I don't know what it is. Like they don't haunt my nightmares the same way that horror movies do. So like, I kind of want to like try some of the scariest books, and that would be interesting to like make a video about. But then once I am effectively working by reading the book, can I then settle into them? I don't know.
That's the big debate, isn't it? Anyway,
it's a huge debate.
We digress from our tangent. Shall we get into the post of this week, Rachel?
Yes, let's get going. So we have a username win or lose once again, an unidentified victor who is asking, am I the asshole for wanting revenge? They say, surprisingly, against all odds, a bunch of us victors from the former Hunger Games have survived the war. There aren't many of us left, but I'm grateful to be one of them. After surviving the arenas designed to kill us, our families were threatened, our districts punished, our victories turned against us. And then we had to live through the uprising. But finally the war is over, and the capital has fallen. President Snow is due to be executed, and then the president gathers us around a table and asks us if we want to continue the Hunger Games.
So tone deaf.
Sorry. So bad. On the surface, the idea sounded ludicrous, but she went on to explain that there was a growing anger against the capital, people demanding retribution for everything the district suffered at the hands of the capital. And the suggestion being brought to us is another Hunger Games. But instead of district children being reaped, it would be capital children in the firing line. Nothing had been decided yet, but we were being given the chance to vote. Majority wins. Some of us said yes, some of us said no. No one was allowed to abstain from the vote. Our votes wouldn't be made public, but people would know who was on the voting committee, and obviously the overall vote. I can't take back what I voted, but I'm still left thinking about the decision. The overall vote was to go ahead. I don't think anyone particularly wanted any more deaths specifically. I think it was more about letting the capital citizens who remained really feel what they were doing to us all those years, letting them understand how brutal the whole thing was to begin with. They were cheering for our deaths while our families were grieving. They lived in comfort and security while we had nothing. I keep coming back to this question of justice versus revenge. What we voted for, which is it? Justice? It would be symbolic and bring closure to the districts, ensuring the games never happened again. Or revenge? We fought to ensure the games never happen again, and yet now we are allowing another one, directly to cause harm, so they finally understand. Thankfully, the Capital Hunger Games will never happen. President Coin is dead, and the plan has died with her. At least, I think it has. But we were all finally safe when we condemned more children to death, and I can't decide whether it was justified. So, are we assholes for wanting revenge, even after the war is over?
This one's going to have
heavy moral debate once again.
Okay, shall we get into it, Rachel?
Nothing else to do, is there? Just dive right in.
No, let's go.
Deep end.
Okay, this Am I the Arsehole post is so hard. It's such a loaded question. And if you remember our previous Victor episode from Catching Fire, we were talking a lot about like where each victor in the Quarter Quell was from and how they won and what they were subjected to after they won the first games and everything they went through after those games. It was like another games in itself, only it lasted longer. Yeah. And rather than their lives being on the line, now it was their loved ones being threatened. And we also have to remember that even though the victors are older now, they were subjected to their initial traumas when they were children, in their most like formative years. Like these guys are messed up in ways that like we can't even imagine.
Yeah, and like these are all things that like we're going to have to take into account when we come up with like our ultimate verdict at the end. Like, and they come from a different world than we do, I guess, as well, like everything they've been through and what like the structures are around them. But like they're still human characters, and I think ultimately like there still needs to be a sense of like human morality in there. You would think that, I don't know, I mean, we're going to get into like a severe like philosophical debate if we go too far into this, but like do all human beings have the same innate morality or should have the same innate morality? And we're going to have to really, really dig into a lot of what these characters are thinking and feeling as they cast their votes. But I guess something else I want to point out before we dive in is that in this episode, we're going to be focusing on the victor's votes, but then also Katniss's split-second decision to kill President Clyne. They are the two things we're mainly going to discuss. But really, if you take away the post and then simply focus on the title, any number of people within the Hunger Games could have written this "Am I the Asshole?" question. Because so many of them are actually driven by revenge. Yeah, like you have the victors and Katniss like as the big ones. Towards the end of this book, towards the end of Mockingjay. But where was I? So like yeah, you have the victors and Katniss. It's a big block of text. Is like Katniss decides that she's gonna flip President Clyne for the privilege to kill President Snow until he hijacks Peter, and then she's out for blood. She wants revenge on Snow for taking Peter away from her. So we're not even talking about Katniss's revenge on Clyne now. We're talking about Katniss's revenge on Snow. Snow wants revenge on the districts for what the capital went through during the Dark Days.
Yeah.
He says it's like about control and protecting people from themselves. But it's totally revenge. It's definitely not about control. It is about like criminalizing people who did nothing to you, let's face it. And obviously like in the big deep dive into that is coming up in when we talk about Ballad, and we'll go more into Snow's backstory basically. But then Pollux and Castor as well, they are capital defectors who are operating these cameras for filming the propos for Plutarch. Are they not also driven to make these propos and work with the rebels because Pollux was made into an Avox and basically became a capital slave working underground? Are they not out for revenge as well in a different way? Ultimate revenge could be seen in the Star Squad and other members of Star Squad's carrying the Nightlock capsules, because then they have control over the manner of their deaths and they get captured by the capital. They aren't going to let themselves be tortured. That itself is also a massive screw you and revenge on President Snow, who wants to torture them. Like, a lot of these rebels as well aren't working for justice. A lot of them also want revenge on the capital. At least if you believe Clyne, a lot of these rebels want revenge on the capital, and that's why we're having the whole question in the first place of, do we have another Hunger Games? But I guess we'll get into that a bit later on how much you believe that Clyne is the one who's bringing that versus the rebels themselves. And before we really get going, I want to point out something at the very end of this. In the final scene, in the epilogue, Katniss is watching her children play in the meadow, effectively on top of a mass grave, because that's where they buried all the bodies from the District 12 bombing.
Yeah.
But also, similar to the Plant book, they start a project to remember the people murdered by the capital, like in every way, shape or form. So Peter either like draws or paints a picture of the person if they don't have like an actual photo of them. And they make a memorial book trying to like capture the small details of the people that she thinks it would be a crime to forget. So you have Lady, the goat, you have Prim, her dad, Peter's dad, Finnick, Cinna, Boggs, Rue, on and on, and all these people get involved. And Haymitch joins him, and he adds all 23 years of his tributes. Even drunk, he remembers them all. Which I guess answers like a lot of our like, did Haymitch even try with his tributes questions from earlier? But now he's wanting, obviously he wants revenge on the capital, Brewing Rebellion. I guess not just for his family and his girlfriend who were killed after his games. He wants revenge for his tributes as well. They add like Finnick and Annie's son because they want to add moments of happiness, but are they also not getting revenge on behalf of Finnick and Annie's son who never got to meet his dad?
Yeah.
Like, this book effectively becomes like this is why we fought book. This is why we did what we did. If they had made this book before this point, this would have been a book of reasons for revenge. And all these people are dead around them because of the capital. And yeah, we aren't talking about that specifically in this episode, but it's worth pointing out that this book is pretty much driven by justice and revenge the whole way through.
Yeah, that book is really powerful, isn't it? Especially right at the end when we find out how Katniss and Peter have ended up and how they're kind of living their life with Haymitch. And Haymitch raises geese when the drink runs out and remembers all of his tributes from all of his games, and just all these people that died. It's so many people. Like, if you start to write kind of a list, it's so many people.
And it's also worth noting, knowing what we're going to get into, and even taking this this book and just the memory of all these people who have died. Even just remembering this when we start talking about how Katniss kills Coin, it's worth thinking about exactly how many people that actually saves as well.
Okay, so the big boardroom talk. It's the end of the war, and the remaining victors get gathered into a room together to propose the symbolic final Hunger Games. First off, Coin, you can't take something as brutal and sadistic as making children fight to the death and pretty it up and sugarcoat it into being a symbol for justice, like righting the Capitol's wrongs. It doesn't make you a better person for proposing this because it's a symbol to end your war now and not the Capitol's symbol any longer. But when Coin is proposing this, I do feel like she thinks she is better than the previous leadership who created the games. Like, if she does it, it's more right and more just because it's the tables being turned and they're doing one final games with a spin and then we'll drop it. Like, she generally thinks it's a good idea. And I'm sorry, but what do we think about the original people who thought about it all in the first place? It wasn't just implemented on a random Sunday when life was good for a laugh. Like, we'll discuss this more, obviously, in Songbird's episodes coming up. But the first games themselves were also symbolic. They were there to represent and punish the districts for how they acted during their first rebellion and instill fear into them so they wouldn't do it again. And correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't this the exact same thing President Coin is proposing now? She's just trying to wrap it up in a nicer bow, but not punishment, but a reckoning. But it's basically the exact same thing, the exact same logic, and we're just going to go around in one giant circle forever.
Pretty much.
Yes.
Yeah. Pretty much, yeah. I kind of hit the nail on the head there. But I think part of this we're going to get into is that a lot of people do kind of see it as being the exact same thing again. And there's some people in that boardroom who do just see right through that. But I think it's worth actually talking about who is there to see and witness this proposal, because the proposal itself is a proposal of revenge, and that's the choice being given to the people who have lived the exact thing. In fact, Haymitch asks if it was Plutarch's idea and Coin says it was hers, because she's the one trying to balance the need for vengeance with the least loss of life. And don't believe that for a second, Coin. I see right through you, love. Just saying. But let's break down who voted what and who is there. So it's Joanna, Peter, Beatty, Haymitch, Annie, Katniss, and Enobaria. And every person here has been through hell. And that was before the war brought them even more problems. So, yeah, I'm sensing some issues with this already.
Yeah, so let's start by talking about Joanna. Why not? She votes yes, and she wants the Capitol to have a taste of their own medicine. So to understand her answer, we need to remember that she was obviously, as we discussed in past episodes, sexualized by the Capitol in the same way Finnick was. And then she was captured after the Quarter Quell arena and tortured, which is arguably a lot worse than dying in the arena as she was intended to.
And I think her method of torture is particularly brutal as well, because she is doused in water and electrocuted to the point where she now no longer showers because she can't stand to be covered in water. Katniss watches her wash in a sink with a cloth because she can't bear to be covered in water. She struggles to walk through rain to make it to training when they're in District 13. And she even fails to make it into the Star Squad because she fails the exam. Because she gets wet and freaks the fuck out. Which,
terrifying.
Valid. You've been through hell, love.
Yeah. And then on top of all of that, when Katniss gets a compartment in 13 with Joanna, because they wouldn't allow Joanna out of the hospital on her own, because she's too unstable because of everything that the Capitol did to her. Katniss obviously bunks with her, and I feel like over time they do become a little sisterly, because as I've said before with Joanna and Katniss, I do feel like they are just different sides of the same coin. Like they're so alike, they kind of hate each other, but I think they could have actually got on really well in maybe in a different life. But when they move in together, Joanna kind of freaks out when she accidentally looks through Katniss's stuff. Like she just kind of opens a cupboard or something and accidentally finds her stuff and is like, oh, I'm so sorry, as if it's like something she's not allowed to look at. And Katniss realizes that Joanna has nothing. Like Katniss has very little, but she still has some things that remind her of home and Peter. And Joanna has none of that. Like no possessions that are completely hers, no people. She's truly on her own because of the Capitol. It's so sad.
There is one thing she ends up having, and I want to bring it up because I think it's honestly sadder than her having nothing at all. And this is when Katniss goes out of her way to find like some tree bark and things and puts together this tiny little like trinket thing for Joanna, who is from the lumber district, and it smells like home to her. Katniss has gone out of her way, it's a very, very sisterly thing to do, to make this little trinket when she's back in the hospital again. So it's something that reminds Joanna of home, and she can hold it to her nose and smell the forest. And that's the only thing she has. A bit of tree bark and moss.
Yeah.
And that's worse than nothing at all. That's like heartbreaking.
Obviously, Joanna isn't the only one who is tortured. We need to talk about how Peter and Annie are also taken by the Capitol after the Cours de Quell, and they do both vote no to what Coin is proposing. But we need to mention the way they talk about the time they spent captured. Like if we go back to District 13, before the mission to the Capitol was launched, Peter just appears out of nowhere in the dining room in shackles and gets invited to sit with Katniss, Finnick, Annie, Joanna, etc. I think Gail's there as well. And it basically it ends with Annie having to cover her ears and Finnick leading her away because Joanna starts talking about the time they were all locked up. Like she says that she's been told not to bottle it up because it will make her worse by the District 13 doctors. But around the dinner table, she starts saying that these really uncensored things, which are honestly quite triggering, especially to Annie, about how they all know what each other's screams sound like. So Annie has a breakdown. Joanna is completely cold and detached. And then Peter ends up screaming at Deli Cartwright that Katniss is a muck created by the Capitol, convinced she isn't human, and has his own breakdown shortly after that. So you can really see how much of a lasting effect this stuff has had.
Yeah, definitely. So it's not something you get over quickly, is it?
So we can kind of see more why Joanna has voted yes. But Peter, who was hijacked and made to believe Katniss is a mutt, still votes no. Like, this might be a controversial question, but do we think Peter votes this way because he is just pure and an honest person and wants the games to fully end? Or do we think he is in any way influenced by the hijacking and the other things that the Capitol did to him? Like, is he now also programmed to do no harm to the Capitol? Like, wait, what do we think? Would this have had any sway over him? Or do we think he would have just voted that way regardless anyway?
I think he's voting this way regardless. I think if we think of pre-hijacking Peter, I still don't think he would have done any intentional harm to the Capitol. Like, even if they did try to hijack him that way, I think it would have been redundant. It would have been like pointless to do. They could have programmed him like to sabotage 13, like if they wanted that in the first place, and they didn't. Like they could have like hijacked him to cause like nuclear meltdown within 13's base, because they comment it was too easy to rescue him, right?
Yeah.
They comment that it was far too simple to get them out. It should have been harder. So, and they speculate that he was actually like there for the taking at this point. They were waiting for District 13 to come and try and rescue him, wondering how far they could push Katniss. And then when Katniss gets him back, it's hard. He's no longer Peter, her Peter. Like they played psychological war instead of physical war. And I think like at this point, Peter's maybe a little confused about Katniss by the time that we get around to doing this vote, but he's back to being Peter as much as possible. And like his fundamental self didn't actually change. He kind of just questioned who he was because of what the Capitol did to him. He questions everything he thought he knew because they made him believe Katniss was a mutt, and everyone's trying to unhijack the mutt out of him and be like, actually, no, like that's not the case. They tricked you. And he was so convinced of that, he then questions everything else that he knew. But none of what he thought he knew, apart from Katniss being a mutt, ever changed. It was just, that's why they had the real or not real game, because the conflict was, that's the only thing that was different, but he was so convinced of that, he questioned everything else he was so convinced of. But he never changed the root cause of Peter, and he obviously, Peter himself saw the Capitol the same way Katniss saw the Capitol. Like, the truth of the Capitol, it was never Capitol citizens, the kids either. It was always the higher ups. The kids are still innocent.
Yeah, there is definitely still a lot of Peter left, and we kind of see this when they're hiding out in the Capitol during their siege. Peter gives Katniss like the tin of lamb stew, which he clearly remembers as her favorite, and it triggers the memories of them in the arena. Like, it's all still there. And he does say on TV to Caesar Flickerman that like murdering innocent people costs like not just your life but everything that you are. Like, he is sticking by that idea. Like, he isn't going to help murder innocent Capitol children who've had no hand in what was done to him, in the same way that the district children killed weren't to blame for the first rebellion. So you can totally understand why he votes no.
And even Annie votes no. Because honestly, because I think Annie is so lovely, she doesn't want anyone to go through what she went through. I think even though she very, very clearly has PTSD from her time in the arena, she refuses to give that to anyone else. Like, the heart of her is a nice, sort of like, just really genuinely lovely young woman is where this no comes from. But Haymitch holds off voting until Katniss votes. And I think that is very deliberate. So Katniss and Haymitch are the last two to vote. Beatty's voting no, probably because he like sees the probabilities and the underlying maths of the situation, and he's quite logical. So the Capitol leadership is who he was after. They cause all the issues. That's been dismantled already. Like, I don't think Beatty at this point sees a value in revenge for the sake of revenge. It wouldn't really achieve anything, but there's 7 of them voting, and there's already 3 votes for no and 2 for yes, and the other yes is Anabaria. Obviously, she's Anabaria. But here, if Haymitch votes yes, Katniss would be the deciding vote. If Haymitch voted no, Katniss's vote would not matter. But if Katniss votes first and Haymitch follows her up, that basically gives Katniss the deciding vote, and he tells her to vote first, effectively. And I think he's doing that on purpose. He's basically handing this choice to Katniss, who ultimately has probably, I don't know if she's suffered more, but she is sort of the face of the rebellion, right? And her name will be tied to this vote the most.
Yeah, I don't blame him for voting yes. Like, I think he probably expects Katniss to have some sort of plan, and surely she wouldn't vote yes if she hadn't had some sort of like ulterior motive. Like, Haymitch has said to Katniss that like he was the example used to other victors of what could happen if they step out of line. Like, all the people he loved were killed within, what was it, like 2 weeks? Like, he's not blackout drunk all the time now. So it would make sense if that kind of rage came back and that played into the way that he votes her.
Yeah, and I think I don't hold anything against him for backing Katniss up with that. Because I think ultimately the way he votes is to back Katniss up. I do. Like, I think it's to like give her a sense of, yeah, okay, I see where you're coming from. I'm not going to like leave you morally questioning this as well. But I think we need to talk about the way Katniss votes, because she obviously votes yes. And when I read this book for the first time, I was so incredibly disappointed with her for this reaction, with her voting yes.
Why?
I was very, very disappointed. I don't know what you think about this whole thing, but it kind of felt like the opposite of everything she had worked towards.
Yeah.
And I wonder whether it boils down to her wanting to punish Snow, to make him feel it, knowing that his granddaughter is of age to go into a reaping, like make it be like hit home for him. But that's a flawed logic, because this is right before Snow is due to be executed anyway. Like, it felt like the only reason that I could think of when I read this book, and even now, one of the only reasons I can think of is that she wants to get back at Snow.
Yeah.
But he's not going to be around to witness it. And I felt that's the only thing that Katniss could think of that would directly punish Snow for Prim, specifically for Prim. Because at this point in time, she still sort of believes that Snow is lying to her.
Yeah.
Like, and that it doesn't make sense for it to be Coin and 13 behind the bombs that killed Prim. Like, she's not convinced of that yet. She's still sort of going, no, it has to be Snow. He's just playing mangas with me. It's fine. Like, but, and the reason I think it could only be Snow is because Katniss herself has never blamed capital citizens for what she has suffered. She thinks they're delusional and she hates their lifestyle and like them living to excess while she has nothing, and thinks they're like completely delusional for what they've been like conditioned to believe and how they've been brainwashed. But ultimately, if she doesn't hold anything against her prep team and Effie, who are very much capital and have a very direct impact on her life, if she holds nothing against them for being a part of the capital engine, for literally being there to take care of her as she's about to die, it makes no sense for her to despise the people who like just consume the Hunger Games as entertainment. Like, she doesn't blame half the people who are actively a part of the Hunger Games. She shouldn't blame the people who are just watching the Hunger Games. It's like the only driving factor I can find is Prim. It's Snow for Prim. And the anger and the grief like blinds her logic to the fact that this is not actively punishing the people behind the whole thing in the first place. It's punishing people external to that. But then, like I say, Snow is about to be executed. And a lot of the other people high up in the capital are already also on the chopping block.
Yeah.
So the yes reads as revenge against the capital citizens and not as Snow. And that I have a problem with. That I have a very, very big problem with.
Yeah, when I first read this, I was like, Katniss, girl, what are you doing? Like, you've done all this. You've been in the games twice yourself. Like, you've been fighting so much for this. Like, no, you should be like alongside Peter and you should be saying no. And then, obviously, once you read the rest of the book, it kind of makes a bit more sense. But then when she killed Coin, I was like, oh, okay. So was it like somewhere deep inside, I feel like it was her trying to get on Coin's good side, get on with her plan, make her happy, and then be like, I'm going to kill Snow. So she's there with a bow and arrow. She's got a weapon. And then she kind of had an inkling that, she might actually try and kill Coin instead. But she needed to keep Coin in her good books for as long as possible so she could have like access to do so. But I don't think a lot of that is obviously narrated in the book. That's just my feeling of the situation.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about this more coming up when we get into like the Katniss like actually killing Coin. But I never read that as premeditated. I kind of read that as a Katniss mistake, a Katniss grief, a Katniss anger kind of thing. And then she went, "What the hell am I doing?" kind of thing. Like it all just clicked in an instinctual moment. That's kind of how I read it. But I could totally see both. I could totally see both being a thing. I could say, because you're right. Like, what other chance was she going to get to kill Coin? No other chance. That was the only chance she was going to get. So if she did premeditate to be like, I'm going to take that shot, then I can totally see it. I can totally see that. But there's a lot that I think we haven't covered in this discussion yet. A lot of things that weren't said. A lot of things that I'm picking up on from subtext. Are you ready to hear this?
Let's go.
More of my theories. More of my theories again. Up to press, we haven't really talked much about Enobaria, but I do want to talk about this because she votes yes. And unlike Joanna, her reasoning isn't sort of made all that clear by the books. Like, we just know her to be like violent and vicious. And like, I guess like as far as Katniss can tell, she like profited the most from the Hunger Games out of everyone who's left, because she apparently didn't get captured and tortured like the rest of them. She probably clearly just wasn't part of the rebellion. No one mentions hearing her scream. She wasn't in the same vicinity of them when Joanna and Annie and Peter got rescued. So within like her in particular, like, has the games like just not once again like conditioned her to kill further? Like, is Enobaria voting yes because she has been through it and now like murder is just part of her life? Like, is this like taking away further like who she is as a person? Enobari is like the one person whose decision you never really get to know the reason for. She just says yes. She's like the embodiment of violence in the room. But that kind of led me to ask the question is why Enobari is here? But then the real question was to me, why was this vault put to the surviving victors? Because originally I went through this book and I sort of went, why is Enobari here to begin with? Like, why is she in this room? Where did she come from?
There is some important context to this situation, I guess, because apparently these 7 are the only surviving victors. Like Beatty says, it's the price of celebrity. Apparently, the Capitol killed the victors they suspected of being rebels, and the rebels killed the victors they suspected to be allied with the Capitol. And all these victors ever wanted to do was live. And some of them probably just align with the people they thought could keep them and their families alive. Like, did they really have to kill them all? None of these people, except for maybe the careers, ever asked for this life. And even the careers probably realized that they may have made a mistake or misjudged the situation after they won and realized how badly they were going to be treated.
I think the main question that I'm asking here is, do we believe this version of events? Do we believe this was the Capitol and the rebels and not District 13 who killed off all these victors?
Yeah, so you did ask this in a previous episode.
Yeah,
I
was
wasn't
talking
sure.
about. Yeah, I'm gonna argue this further because I
Okay.
think because it was mainly when she was talking previously about how like Katniss's prep team was the only prep team left, right? But now it's awfully suspicious to me that the exact people in this boardroom, the exact people who are the only remaining victors, or are the victors that were either working for 13 in 13, or the victors that Katniss made Coin publicly pardon. There are no more loose ends. Like in the same way we discussed the Coin episode, obviously every prep team member, like they're all dead, they're all gone. Every stylist who was involved, every prep team, and now all the victors as well. It's a bit of a coinky dink, do you not think? Like, especially after the whole they will be tried for their war crimes and their punishment decided by the tribunal malarkey that Coin starts spouting. Something here smells a little bit fishy to me, that it's a massive coincidence that these are the only guys left. And then she also says, Coin, she also says she has tried and convicted hundreds of Snow's accomplices in his oppression, and they are awaiting their own deaths. Hundreds of them. Do we believe wholeheartedly there hundreds of people were in on this, like with their entire beings? Or more likely, do we believe hundreds of people were coerced into this? And that's the important distinction here to make, because I want to know Coin's definition of accomplice. Are victors and prep teams accomplices? Are they part of these hundreds of people within Snow's oppression?
I would think so.
Just a bit suspicious, isn't it?
I think she would class the prep teams, the victors, anybody working on the games, anybody who'd done anything for the games that hadn't obviously defected to District 13 or had been pardoned would all be considered as accomplices in Coin's mind.
Every single one of them.
And let's be entirely honest, as I have mentioned already, would this have actually been the final Hunger Games? Like, do we think that people would have let this dropped after only one round of Capitol Kids? Or would this just have rapidly morphed into the same thing again and just history repeating itself? Because I think that would have happened.
Yeah, I think step by step it would have slowly increased. I can see you going from one symbolic Hunger Games to, okay, well, the Capitol is still causing trouble, so let's do a couple more, till they're quelled and they're quieted down. And then it could very, very easily from there become, well, actually, we had 75 years of Hunger Games and 3 of them are quarter quells. And therefore, for the Capitol to really feel the same injustice, we should probably do exactly the same thing to them that they did to us. I can very, very easily see that argument being made
Yeah.
very, very quickly afterwards. Like, because that is where this supposedly comes from. Apparently, a lot of district rebels are supposedly clamoring for the capital to feel exactly what was done to them. They want vengeance. They want punishment. And Coin is like marketing this as a way to balance that vengeance with what she calls the least loss of life. And I'm not sure I really buy this either. Like, that this is the only solution. She's freaking president at this point of an entire country. Surely, if she wanted to, she could lay down the law and say, nope, not doing that. We have won the war. We are in power. The people who orchestrated this whole thing are being punished or have already been punished. We move on. We don't stoop to their level. We're better than that. Like, that would have been a fair argument for her to come out with. But instead, she comes up with this.
Yeah, I know.
And then to top it all off, she asks the people who are the most likely to agree with it as well. The people who have the trauma from actually suffering through the games. Not like a cross-section of society in a randomized vote. Not even a handful of people with like all levels of experiences of the games and war, like on her advisory committee. Plutarch's not there. Hamish isn't there. Well, Hamish is there, but like not in the same capacity. He's in there as Victor, not as like any sort of rebel leader. Payla's not there. Lime's conveniently somehow died somewhere. She was a Victor leading to. Where's she gone? I know it's conceivable that she might have died in war, but she's not there anymore. She's asking the people who are most likely to vote yes, basically. And then says that while their individual votes won't be made public, the overall vote will be, and the name of the people who were on the committee to do the voting will also be included. Like, I know you can argue that the people who were in the arenas should have a say in whether the arena concept continues, even if it's like only like one final time, like they're saying. But should they have the only say and no other perspectives are taken into account at all? The whole thing feels like a setup. The whole thing feels like Coin has manipulated it to get the answer she wants.
Well, apparently
that's what I'm getting for this.
She basically says, right, that they all want justice and blood, and instead of having a massacre, she's basically proposed to have one final symbolic Hunger Games with the children of the people who were in power. That's basically what she says. She basically says that like she proposed it to them, but nobody can seem to agree, as if she's already asked other people. And she was like, well, because nobody can agree.
That's the whole point then. If people can't agree, there's your answer.
And then she was like, well, like if we can't agree, we thought maybe the victors should just vote. So it's like, well, really? Like, could they have not had like a sort of election situation?
Or you know,
like,
people
referendum?
go, this is too brutal. This is too brutal. Can we come up with something else? Anything else? Protective custody for these kids who aren't part of the problem. Because I sort of then also go, well, who are you punishing with these kids? Because if these are the kids of the people who are in power, you're telling me these kids' parents then are already being punished. These kids' parents are already going to die. So who is the statement to? If it's supposedly higher ups in the capital, well, that statement's not going to land very well because the parents are dead. The whole idea is the Hunger Games works well because you're taking kids of the same level. Oh, it might be my kid being raped. That's what pops down the fear. That's what sort of gives it back. Unless you're sort of looking for vengeance, but then vengeance has been enacted because the guy's already dead.
I think it's just because
I'm not seeing a logic to this. They just want it for the fun of it.
There's so much people who are so bloodthirsty that basically they want to kill all the people, which is fine, they're doing that, but they want even more than that. Like Gale, they want to completely wipe out,
annihilate
the capital, which includes all the kids and the children. And then Coin's argument is, well, to save a lot of them, to not have as much bloodshed, let's only kill a few of them, basically.
But then
it's like her thinking. I'm not saying it's the right thinking. I'm just saying that's.
But I'm going to point out a flaw in that logic as well, because I assume then if you're saying to save on the bloodshed, to save on the vigilante justice that would happen, we'll kill a select number of them. Well, actually, if you're telling me that this number of people are like, these district citizens are that incensed by the whole thing that they will go out on vigilante justice and kill tons of capital people for the sake of them just being capital, you killing off 24 kids, because let's face it, it would be 24, there wouldn't be a single survivor out of that. That would never happen. That other kid would die the second they came back. If you're saying that you can quell all those districts sort of like vigilante groups by killing off 24 kids, that wouldn't happen. You would still get them killing off more capital citizens. So surely if you don't want the loss of life, you protect the people who are going to be like killed, or you convict the people who are threatening the killing. Yes?
Such a mess.
It's such a mess. No way you look at this looks good. No way. 0 ways. Every option is bad. Bad coin. Smack her down.
Bad.
Smite her.
Spritz. Bad coin.
Get off the sofa, coin.
I think I'm losing
Get off
it.
the kitchen counter. So, we also need to examine Katniss shooting coin within this, because this could either be another act of revenge within the final chapter of Mockingjay, but there are also like so many other reasons that Katniss could have shot coin, and only obviously one of them reasons is revenge. And regardless, it would only be like fair to judge Katniss for being an asshole for killing someone who wasn't actively trying to kill her. Because up to this point, she's only tried to kill people during active war or in the arena where people were also trying to kill her. In this moment, she's meant to be executing someone else. She's meant to be executing President Snow.
Yeah.
And instead, she kills the wrong president, or arguably, the right president, as the case may be. But I'm going to call it, for now, like her first true murder.
Okay. Yeah, I honestly don't blame Katniss for shooting Coin rather than Snow. Like, I think she saw in that moment exactly how Coin was going to rule. And don't forget, you know, that while Katniss is not in any direct danger right now, Coin has tried to wipe Katniss out multiple times.
Yeah.
And in this moment, she has realised that Coin likely is the one to blame for Prim's death. And like she's been trying to deny it for as long as possible, but the truth of it sort of hits home like right in that second.
Yeah, like she's stood there with a bow and arrow, it's better to kill Snow, and she kind of just realizes that Snow is right. So like back in her house in the Victor's Village, like they agreed to never lie to each other. And that is the big thing that he says to her when they have the meeting about it being Coin who killed them. Because he turns around and says, I never lied to you. Why? Basically, and then that's the kind of question: is why wouldn't he admit it, right? So Snow and Katniss may have been at odds this whole time, like fighting against each other, but at no point does Snow actually lie to her, which is quite a weird thing to realize. He's entirely upfront and honest and lays bare like exactly what he is doing at all times, why he's doing it, and what he needs from her. He is like evil and brutal and horrible human, but he's honest. Like his morals are twisted as anything, but he has never lied to her. He doesn't need to lie to her. And if he had killed Prim, wouldn't he want to gloat? Like his final act against the Mockingjay would be murdering her sister, who she fought to protect this entire time. The reason she is the Mockingjay because she volunteered on Prim's behalf. What does he gain by saying he did not kill Prim? He's still going to die. Like he doesn't gain anything by not admitting it. And if he had done it, he would admit it. And honestly, like we said, she is armed and she is stood right next to President Coin as she realizes all this, as she realizes that the reason she did all this for Prim has been taken away from her by Coin. And the guards are stood way back. Now is probably the best chance she will ever get.
Yeah, and this is like right after the vote as well, right? Like,
yeah.
So she probably also realizes exactly what the capital kids in the Hunger Games would be like. And wouldn't it be exactly like it was under President Snow? Like, wouldn't they want to make it widely watched and successful? Wouldn't they trot out every surviving victor and make them relive their trauma the same way that President Snow made them when they were mentors? Like, would these victors have to mentor capital kids now? Like, there's so many ways this plan would backfire on the victors too.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very good point. And I also want to point out the fact that one of the things that kind of absolves Katniss of guilt in my mind for this is that she gets to live after killing the wrong president.
Mhm.
And that kind of shows exactly how justified she was in her actions too, because
Mhm.
clearly other people believe it. Coin has hundreds of people waiting their deaths for supposed war crimes, and yet Katniss gets to walk out after a period of quite comfortable solitary confinement, which makes me believe that a lot of people knew exactly why she did what she did. And that it was the right move, and that then her trial was more about finding a way for her to be released with a sufficient excuse for her actions that could justify the assassination without having to admit that Coin was actually just as bad as President Snow and was going to be just as bad as President Snow.
Yeah.
So I might not be entirely convinced or sure of what was going through Katniss's mind when she let go of the arrow into Coin. But action wise, did she save hundreds of people from death whose only crimes were probably just allowing themselves to be blackmailed or threatened? Yeah. Did she save dozens of capital kids from being killed in an arena? Yeah. Because I certainly do not believe that Paler would let that victor vote stand at all. And I think for the rest, you can probably just ask yourself what would have happened if someone shot Snow the second that he got into power. Because I think with Coin, we can agree that history would have repeated itself.
Yeah.
And Paler's now the new president, and that makes a district president who had nothing to do with the games at all. Like we said, I confuse Paler and Lime a lot, but Paler is
Same.
8 and Lime's the victor from 2.
Yeah.
Paler was entirely district. She has had nothing to do with the games at any level apart from being in the reaping pool at some point. And I think it's better. It's better that way. Definitely.
Yeah. Basically, what's happened is that someone's got out this giant big red button like they do. Have you seen The Good Place?
I
Seen The
have
Good
seen
Place?
bits of The Good Place, but not a lot of The Good Place.
There's this scene where they get out this giant red button to basically reset The Good Place. And I basically feel like someone's just got out a giant red button. Katniss has obviously killed Coin, and now they're just boop, let's reset Panem to factory settings.
You've wiped Capital, you've wiped the District Rebels. Yeah, I guess, have I? Something that I haven't actually pointed out and I didn't put in my notes because I'm an idiot. I think this factory reset has been the right option because if we go back through what has happened up to this point, so if you remember, way back when we recorded the first couple of episodes, we were talking about how accurate was the representation of the Dark Days. How accurate was the representation, because it sounded a lot like what was being said was that everything was hunky-dory, and then District 13, we now find out, because Snow has said to us that 13 is the one who started the first rebellion, and then they left everyone to suffer. So effectively what it sounds like is that 13 tried to start a rebellion, take over the capital. It didn't succeed, so the capital cracked down on the other districts to stop that from happening. It sounds like the capital has succeeded, has fallen, but District 13 succeeded again, and District 13 was going to implement their own sort of capital regime. They were going to implement their own sort of similar system, but where they had power instead. Because the whole idea originally was we were going, well, if it wasn't hunky-dory, why was there a rebellion? Well, I questioned that. I thought surely the capital must have had something terrible going on. Maybe it wasn't great. It wasn't as bad as it became. Maybe it wasn't great. But that seems to be exactly what happened. It seems like District 13 has always wanted the bigger piece of the pie. It sounds like 13 has always wanted to be in absolute power. It doesn't seem like 13 ever wanted to liberate the districts. I kind of get the feeling that 13 wanted to take over for the capital and have the districts under them.
Yeah, I think that's what Coin wanted to do.
Yeah. Wiping all that slate clean, probably the best idea. So whether you think that Katniss wanted to kill Coin for revenge or not, we will decide in a moment. But did she do right? Even if it was motivated by revenge, she still did the best thing for the rest of Panem. So does that then absolve her of wanting to kill? It's convenient when the action that you want to take is for the best of everyone, but also gives you some revenge. Like, it's a nice little sweet spot there she's got going on, isn't it? Kill the girl who murdered your sister and save the country at the same time.
So I guess the ultimate question of this episode is, are the victors arseholes for voting for revenge on the capital children? So we're talking about Hamish, Katniss, Anabaria, and Joanna. Those are all the ones that obviously said yes. Are they arseholes for wanting revenge at all? Is it acting on like revenge versus wanting revenge? Like what? Like where is like the dividing line? And then to add on top of that, like, is Katniss an arsehole for killing Coin? Did she kill Coin for revenge, or was it the right thing to do? I think we've kind of established, right, that Katniss did the right thing, killing Coin.
Yeah.
Whether that was for revenge or whether that's because she saw history replaying itself, but that was the right thing to do. So I feel like we've kind of come to, I would say she's not an arsehole for that.
Yeah, I don't think she's an arsehole. I don't think she's an arsehole for either, whether she wanted revenge or whether she killed because it was the right thing to do. I think they're both conveniently aligned. And if Panem ain't going to punish her, if Panem's going to send her back to a district where she's happiest, let's be honest, it's not much of a punishment, is it?
No.
You get to go live in District 12 for the rest of your life, only it's better now, and you aren't being persecuted, and you get to live the life that you always sort of like imagined, but now you actually get to have kids that aren't going to be punished, and you get to be with Peter and Hamish, and stuff just gets to come together. And yes, you've not got your sister, not got your mother, because your mother's not going to come back to District 12 with you. But it kind of seems like the best. All the other place Katniss would have been like in a district getting fawned over, or in the capital. She didn't get punished. Why should we punish her? 0% asshole I'm going with.
And I think in terms of the victors who voted for revenge, so those 4 victors who actually said yes, I feel like it's obviously a lot more complicated, but we've spoken about the trauma that they've gone through, the horrific things that they've been through, so you can understand the motivation to vote yes. But then you also have to remember that they know exactly what it's like to be in horrific Hunger Games, and then they're basically putting more kids into the game. So I feel like for me, for most of them, I'm kind of sitting around a 50-50, like a 50-50 arsehole scale.
Anabaria, I'm going to rate higher. I don't know. I feel like she didn't get tortured. She didn't get put anywhere else. I'd be interested to know, like, if there's anything, any theories around what Anabaria went through during that time period. People are being tortured.
There aren't any kind of theories about what she went through after the Quarter Quell to the voting, but there are many theories about what happened to her in general after her games leading up to now, her treatment by the capital.
How bad are they?
Very similar
in comparison to everyone else.
Very similar to Finnick's treatment, and explains why she got her teeth filed.
Okay.
Yeah.
So but we're still going on theory.
I know, it's all theory.
I always see Anabaria as being just more bloodthirsty than everyone. I want to put Anabaria as a slightly bigger asshole. I don't know why. It's the vibe that I'm getting. But that might be because she tried to kill Katniss. That might be because she actually actively engaged in brutal murder in Quarter Quell. You know what I mean? Like that kind of... You clearly weren't a rebel in the first place. So that kind of makes it a bit more brutal that she wasn't on the side of the rebels, but yet will still continue the Hunger Games afterwards. It feels a bit shittier just to turn direct, like a massive two-face like decision to go back on that when you were aligned with Capital. So I'm probably gonna say Anabaria 60% because she's still been through some hell. I don't know about Katniss and Hamish. I think Katniss is wrong for it, but I might still say like 45% for her and Hamish. I don't know why. I feel like, I mean, Joanna's had everyone like be murdered as well, we're assuming, aren't we? Yeah, 50-50 everyone. But the question of whether they're assholes for wanting revenge versus for voting for revenge, that's different. I don't think you can ever be... Can you be an asshole for wanting revenge? I guess it depends on the form that revenge takes.
It depends on individual context, really, doesn't it? That's a long conversation.
Because Katniss wanting revenge on Snow, yeah, girl, not 0% asshole. But because she's also getting justice at the same time, no justice is going to be done on capital children. What justice is that? Justice and revenge are not aligning there at all. God, we could go on forever about this, can't we? This could be
What's the closing questions for this week, Rachel?
Well, it is semi-related once again. We've talked a lot about revenge in the form of murder and death and destruction. But I tend to prefer a good petty revenge. Like we've all done some petty revenge, right? I assume you have some stories. We've all been students sharing uni houses with people who don't look after things the way we do. I've heard stories of housemates not doing the washing up when it was their turn. And everyone else in the house has just bought paper plates and hid them in their rooms and not done any washing up either and just left the first roommate to do it. Maybe cut this bit out, maybe keep it in, depending who watches. We once piled someone's dirty plates outside their bedroom because they left them in the sink for weeks on end.
I'm pretty sure we we would just leave our doors unlocked. I'm pretty sure they were sleeping and we took them in.
Oh God.
And we just laid them out on the floor.
So get out of bed in the middle of the night and stand in a pan full of grease.
Yeah.
Oh yes. At one point, I got fed up of buying the loo roll in the flat the whole time. I missed second year. I had an ensuite in second year, but in third year, I got fed up of buying the loo roll in the house the whole time. So we made a plan, me and my other housemate, we'd bought the loo roll every single time. Other housemate never bothered to buy loo roll. Never happened. Never appeared. And we bought loo roll for ourselves and took it from our bedrooms into the bathroom each time and took them back in. It was our personal loo roll. We've all done that. But with that in mind, because that is life and sometimes it just makes you feel a little bit better, what kind of petty, non-murdery revenge, I guess, could we have concocted for capital citizens instead? Something like what would we have suggested instead of the Hunger Games, coin, any other? Because I think what could have been good, without murder, just a bit of public humiliation. When they used to have medieval times, you'd be in the stocks and you'd get rotten fruit thrown at you. That. I feel like that could have gone a long way because you're still getting the violence of throwing things, the physical activity, without the murder. Good old-fashioned stock. Bring them back. Honestly, bring the stocks back.
I think they should have basically done, how sometimes they, if someone does a crime, they firstly have to pay compensation, so money, and then they have to do community service.
No, I've just cleaned up all the battle in the capital.
I think they would have to clean stuff up. Maybe they would have to do stints in the district, working in the field and the mine. Depends what you get assigned to, But you come home to the capital, but you might have to go and spend a month here, come back, and then it's you have to do a certain number of hours or something, depending on your involvement in everything that happened.
Can we do both? Can we have the stocks for the public humiliation? Because I don't know, I'm tied to that idea. It seems perfect to me. But then your option has been it's not even petty, it's just justice. Your thing is okay, cool, you let yourself be bribed. You could have killed him to begin with. You really were on the wrong side in this war. However, you have lots of dosh because you're capital. And if you then pay compensation to the state can use that money to, clean up the districts. You are correct. And they can go and do the manual labour of doing the actual cleaning. The same way people pick up litter in parks and on roadsides. And you can go and pick up litter and destruction in the districts. It's perfect.
And if all the districts are obviously going to have to learn to function within themselves as districts, because you're no longer supplying things to the capital, it also means the capital's going to have to learn how to function as a district. So wouldn't having them go, pick up mining skills, pick up agriculture skills, pick up fishing skills, pick up making things skills out because they have to do legally mandated community service, would that not be good for them to have different skills?
Good for them to have a hobby that's not eating and throwing
Well, they wouldn't
up.
need a hobby. These guys would then have to get jobs. They'd actually have to start to get jobs. They can't just be relaxing all the time. That's just not gonna work.
Do you think, because obviously like we said, I would expect, depending on who's been convicted and stuff, depending on who it is, all those people that have been convicted and are awaiting freaking death do you reckon this is what Paler actually did? Do you reckon that Paler gets president and then you know what? this seems better. We're going to sort of like reduce your sentence. You're not being murdered. Don't worry, guys. However, there needs to be some sort of retribution. So this is what we're going to do instead.
Like, don't get me wrong. I think
Shall we just run Pan Am?
I think the really evil people should have gone to prison and stayed in prison.
Obviously.
Yeah.
But then, like, your question is, how many of those people are really evil? Obviously, like, there's nowhere near hundreds, right?
Yeah. There's probably like 15, 20 people maybe who are honestly evil and corrupt. The rest of them probably could figure themselves out. But I think they should all have to suffer with some sort of
psychotherapy.
And some suffering through some community service and having to pay some money.
Because I guess there's all those ideas around like President Snow, like poisoning people. So if he puts you in his inner circle, you have to pander to his whims. You can't dissent because he might kill you. So how many of those people around him are actually really, really bad? How many of them are just like, I don't want to die? Which, valid fear, Fear. Honestly. Genuinely, what is wrong? What is wrong with Coin?
I know.
I'm glad Paler's in power. In my mind, this is exactly what Paler's done. And Paler for the win. Long live President Paler.
On that note, thanks so much for joining us for this episode again, guys. This was episode 50. How are we on 15 episodes? Oh my God. What is next week's episode, Rachel?
Episode 16 is our final Mockingjay episode. It's our final episode of the original trilogy.
Wild.
And we are really breaking down, really digging in to the good old love triangle debate. Peter versus Gale. Which guy should Katniss have picked? Did she pick right? Yes. Of course she did. It's Peter. But we're going to sort of break down some of these issues that Katniss has had with Gale throughout Mockingjay. Some of the issues that she's had with Peter throughout Mockingjay, because that wasn't smooth sailing either. And then really sort of compare the two guys as a flip side of each other.
Okay, well, join us next time. Yeah, join us next time, guys, because that's going to be one beefy episode. And I feel like a lot of people are going to have a lot of things to say. And obviously, it is the end of our main trilogy book series episodes before we move on to the prequels. So, yeah, join us. I think it will be fun. And we want to know what everybody thinks too. So,
your final answer on Peter versus Gale. Join us for that one.
We'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Thanks for listening to our podcast. And don't forget to let us know your thoughts on all of our potential assholes.
No matter what platform you're listening to us on, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, upvote, and all that stuff.
If you like what we do and want to find out more, all of our platforms are listed in the description or show notes. We're a 2-person team, so any support or feedback is always greatly received.
Tune in next time to Once Upon a Red Flag.
But Peter, who was hijacked and made to believe Katniss is a mutt, still votes no. Like, this might be a controversial question, but do we think Peter votes this way because he is just pure and an honest person and wants the games to fully end? Or do we think he is in any way influenced by the hijacking and the other things that the Capitol did to him? Like, is he now also programmed to do no harm to the Capitol?